Hi, Erica here, your friendly yoga teacher, with one of the most common questions and or excuses that we get as yoga teachers when folks ask folks about yoga or when they find out we're a teacher and we share or we practice if we're a student. The question common is, "Oh, I'm not flexible. I can never do that, or will I be able to do it?" And so, my goal with this short video is to give some food for reflection, maybe not answers, but some food for thought about that if that's gone through your mind before, if you are haven't tried out yoga yet but have thought about it. And then only you can answer the question as to whether you'll try, right? And so to start, what are we talking about when we're talking about flexibility, right? Flexibility, basic definition, all right, and I am not a doctor, but basic definition for us that we'll work with is the ability to move a group of muscles or bones through a range of motion in a joint. All right, very simple. So this would be flexibility. How can I move muscles and bones through a certain range of motion in a joint? And you can see that that definition doesn't have any judgment as to how far or how little range of motion that you have in a joint. Or with a group of muscles. And so it's very subjective. It's to different people have different ranges of motion. And so, unfortunately, in our yoga pop culture and on social media, we have seen images of uh, folks with varying levels of flexibility, and we deem that as better or more yogic. And I would like us to let that go and use our discernment a bit. And those expectations are curated for a certain purpose to get eyeballs and clicks, which is not a bad thing. You know, I've done fancy poses too to get people's attention, and yet know that flexibility is unique to you. And we all have various goals regarding that. And it's only one, flexibility is only one aspect of a broader term that we call mobility, which involves strength, flexibility, coordination, and balance. And so yoga has this wonderful physical aspect of offering the whole mobility spectrum, not just this sole focus on flexibility, nor on this idea that we have to touch our head to our toes in a certain posture. And so I would encourage us to reflect on that and kind of let go of this, you know, subjective idea, you know, this idea of flexibility that's put out to for us on social media, and really go with what's best for our body. And so, if we look at yoga as a practice, what does yoga mean then? Yoga has a variety of definitions that have been put out there. You've probably heard union or you know, there's physical, mental, spiritual aspects. One that seems very accessible to people is becoming more familiar with yourself. All right. So yoga involves practices that allow us to become more familiar with ourselves. And I like that definition or that way of looking at it because it acknowledges that we are unique individuals, that we have a physical aspect to ourselves, the body, of course, where we talk about mobility, flexibility, etc., that is unique to us. That we have a mental body, that we have a mental aspect to ourselves, we have an emotional aspect to ourselves. And yoga can help us through the various practices of physical, but as well as meditative, relaxation, breath work, and lifestyle practices can help us to become more familiar with how we are in our bodies, how we are in our minds, whether we like what we're experiencing or we have some changes that we want to make. And we go from there. And the practice, we start with where we are, not where the practice or we think the practice expects us to be. And so the last thing that I'll say after kind of getting past this curated idea of flexibility, broadening our definition, knowing that we're unique human beings and that yoga is about becoming more familiar with who we are and the best of who we are, bringing that out. The last thing I'll say is that yoga also involves some self responsibility. That it's not just something that a teacher or a guide bestows upon you, and then you have to do that and hope for the best. right? You are the expert of your own body and your own needs and interests. The adage of know thyself, very important. And yoga can help you to get to know yourself better, of course. And yet, starting out with doing your own research. Not every style of yoga is good for everybody. Okay, so let's be honest about that. Um, a yin yoga class may be wonderful for someone who is quite tight in the muscles and needs a little bit of more stretching, more focused stretching. And for hypermobile folks, that may not be the practice for them all the time, right? A vinyasa class, which is a very flowing, movement based physical practice, may be great for us in certain times in our lives or when we have a certain interest or goal. And yet, for other folks that have, you know, joint issues or injury, that flowing motion of constant movement may not be the best for them. And so, really, it's you are the expert in your body and what your body needs at the time or what you're looking for. And so, rather than going blindly into a yoga class or being afraid to go into a yoga class, I would encourage you to one, know yourself. What are you looking for? What are your limitations? What are your strengths? And start your research there and do some research rather than walking blindly into a class and hoping for the best, right? And doing whatever the teacher says, whether it be good for your body or not. Um, you are the expert, so do your own research. Is an online class best for you? You know, if you are quite self-motivated, if you know what you want, if you're just looking to kind of dabble or you know, play around, maybe an online class is great for you. And you can self curate that. If you have more specific needs or specific questions or injuries or abilities or limitations, maybe an in-person class would, with that in-person feedback, would be, or a private session, for example, or a group class in person would be better for you. And so that's where you're taking responsibility for your practice comes into play, and doing your own research and asking questions. Yeah, ask questions, especially if you do have specific needs in your body or limitations, issues that you're working with. We as teachers love to be to help you and to support you and to offer guidance. And if I am not the right teacher for you, or my style is not the right style for you, then I have a plethora of other teachers and styles that I can direct you to. And so, rather than think of this competitive nature amongst yoga teachers, we are here to help you become more familiar with yourself and guide you, hopefully, to find the best practice for you, rather than us trying to fit you into a box. And so, again, knowing yourself, doing your research, choosing, and there will be some mistakes made. There will be some classes you walk into or that you take that you're like, this is really isn't for me. And that's where the idea, the foundation of the ethical practices of yoga come in, which is the term ahimsa, 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 meaning first to do no harm. And so if you choose a class that, is a more general class, and you find that the teacher has guided a posture that you need a variation for or doesn't feel good in your body, then it is your job to first do no harm in your body. And so to either not do that posture or to ask for a variation or something different. And that goes for breath work, that goes for meditation or relaxation as well. We only think of maybe the physical postures in Western yoga. And yet there are lots of aspects of the yoga practice that we can tap into, and we need to be mindful of in going to the capacity that our body has at that time, and building up with this idea of first doing no harm. And so, going into, as I wrap up my chat here about yoga is all about this myth that yoga is all about flexibility, and I'm not flexible, so I can't do it. And so I would encourage you to first consider this idea that flexibility is a range. If we don't try to challenge our bodies or work within our limitations to move ourselves a little more forward, then we'll never know where our flexibility is or where it can go. And so yoga is about becoming more familiar with where you are now, mentally, physically, emotionally, and then moving forward within that range to progress at your time and at your interest level and within your capacity. And so let go of this modern pop culture and these images that set this expectation for what flexibility is. And do your research, ask good questions, and try. Consider how you can try yoga. Yoga is for everybody. There are various styles, there are various teachers. Some you'll connect with, some you won't, but there is a style and a practice that is out there for you. And so I hope that this encourages you, broadens your perspective, and encourages you to do some research, try some classes, get in touch with a teacher. If you want to get in touch with me, I'm here for you, happy to answer some questions, help guide you in a direction, in a positive direction. So take good care, and I look forward to seeing you in a yoga class or practicing yoga very soon. Thank you so much for your time. Be well.